So next step here, we need to prepare the final preparations for our tomato salad. So just again with a very sharp knife, very, very thinly slice your shallots. The thinner the better. Shows your skill as a chef, but also aids for eating as well, that you're not getting a large mouthful of shallot in with your delicate salad. So I have some basil here also. I've had that sitting in water just to refresh it. We're going to need to pick that and drain it a little bit as we plate.
So Rohan, why are we using a green chopping board?
A green chopping board for our fruits and vegetables. Always trying to avoid cross-contamination. When you're preparing items at home, you're going to be preparing chicken, you're going to be preparing meat, you're going to be preparing fish on occasions. So it's very, very important that you use the correct chopping boards, or if you don't have multiple chopping boards at home, to make sure you wash them and sanitize them well in between each use. So I'm just looking for probably about 8 slices of tomato, depending on how big the tomatoes are that you're preparing. Try and make it nice and even and uniform. I'm just going to break my shallots up.
So you're looking to really use quite a flat plate here, not a bowl or anything. I mean, you could do a mixed salad type thing.
Yeah, this is a simple composed salad, so you're just trying to show off your knife skills. Make the
And you're just separating the rims.
That's correct, just so you're getting a small piece of shallot with each mouthful. So I'm just breaking it down here. Evenly space it around. And you'll see that the shallot rings are quite fine. You don't want large pieces of shallot in here. So I'm just going to pick my basil. If you have larger basil leaves and you don't want to put them on in pieces, you can shred them, but I would only do that very, very last minute to ensure that they don't discolour. So I'm probably going to put about 5 or 6 pieces of basil here, and then I need to make a dressing. I haven't seasoned yet because I'm still making my dressing and I don't want the moisture to come out of the tomatoes too much. So I've just got my dressing here. I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of sea salt, a little bit of cracked pepper, and my base, which is some white wine vinegar. Depending on what you're using it for, probably 1 part vinegar to 2 or 3 parts oil, depending on what you're using it for. I've just placed it on a tea towel there to help when I'm whisking. I'm just going to slowly add my olive oil.
So at home, if they haven't got a mixing bowl, they could always take this in a jar or something and it would emulsify together, wouldn't it?
Just have a tasting spoon. Check that the acidity is okay. That's good. Needs a little bit more salt. You've got emulsified dressing there. Put a little bit around the edge as well to aid for presentation. And a final amount of seasoning. Nice little bit of sea salt or table salt if you have it at home. Sea salt gives it a nice little crunch to it. And a little bit of cracked pepper. And there we have our simple tomato and basil and shallot salad. This salad that we're going to be making is a tuna Niçoise salad. traditional in the south of France, around the Provence region, using lots of the local ingredients they have there: beans, tomatoes, olives, tuna, anchovies, all kind of local to France and readily available to Western Australia as well. So, as with all our demonstrational videos, I encourage you to get your mise en place all ready before you start cooking. We are going to need to cook a potato. That's probably going to be the item that takes you the longest. Depending on the size, it could take you up to 15 minutes. So we're going to start with some cold water, some table salt, quite heavily salt the water. That's just to help flavour the potato as it cooks. And then we take it over, we put it on the stove, bring it to the boil and simmer it. As I said, we're probably going to be simmering that for about 15 minutes, but that is going to depend on the size of the potato. So I was fortunate enough to prepare one earlier that's been on for about 15 minutes. If you've got a wooden skewer or a metal skewer at home, the best way to tell that this potato is cooked, straight into the middle, easy in, easy out. If it slides easily off your skewer, then the potato is ready. So remove all the water. We're going to allow that to cool slightly. We'll peel it while it's still warm. That helps the skin come off a little bit. It's important to ensure that you don't overcook the potato, as it'll fall apart when you're preparing the salad. Next item that we're going to look at is our green beans. So I'm just going to blanch them whole. I'm going to top and tail them, ensuring the quality is okay. Again, I have some boiling water here. Salt it a little bit again. Salting inhibits the enzyme activity and stops the beans from browning a little bit.
So at this point, before you blanch them, you'd make sure you have your ice ready. I can see you've got it there. So
they're going to take, depending on the quality of the beans, they're always different. I'll say for a guide, it's going to take around 2 minutes in boiling salted water. As Chef said, make sure you have your iced water ready. Preparation is the key. You can clean down your work area, and while this is happening, you can prepare your olives. I have some pitted Kalamata olives there that I've cut in half. And I have a tomato, again like we did with the tomato concasse. I'm just going to take the root of it out, prepared, ready for cutting some wedges. Okay, so our green beans have been in for about 1.5 minutes. You should see that they're starting to get a little bit tender. They shouldn't have a bite to them, they should be cooked, but likewise you don't want to overcook them until they're mushy and starting to break down and discolour. So for these beans, it's going to take about 2 minutes. Place it in the ice water, allow them to cool. Because you're cooking from home, we're trying to reduce the amount of pots that we're using. We're going to go straight into cooking our medium boiled egg with this pot. So the pot is at the boil. Have a little bit of white vinegar. So we're probably looking, pot that size, about 15 mils of white vinegar. We're putting that in just to help the egg white coagulate if there are any hairline fractures in the shell. So we'll put that in.
So you're dropping that gently with a slotted spoon on you, just so that you don't crack it on the bottom of the pan.
And we don't want it a rolling boil. We just want it at a medium boil. If you have it going any hotter than that, it'll start to break up the eggshell a little bit. It's important to set your timer now for 7.5 minutes. Okay, so my timer's just gone off for 7.5 minutes. So I'm taking that egg out, shocking it in iced water. The next step we need to make is peeling the egg. So now that we've left our egg in to chill a little bit in the iced water for a couple of minutes, you can just lightly tap it on the top, lightly tap it on the other end, and then just press it into the bowl a little bit. So just roll it gently to aid the shell coming off. So you'll see there's lots of cracks there. You can do this under cold running water, or you can do it in the bowl just as I am here. If you're doing large amounts of them, it's much easier to do it under a little bit of running water. The water just gets in under the shell and takes it off. So make sure there's no remaining shell. I'll leave it here. Okay, so we're going to just slice these lengthways like this, just to give see the texture and give it a little bit of a different presentation technique. Many different ways you can do it. This is just a simple way to follow at home. Cutting on the angle. The tomato that we took out the core of before, I'm going to slice that.
So we don't need to peel that one, do we, Rohan?
We don't need to. You can, depending on what restaurant setting that you're working in, different establishments will peel it, but for the cooking at home, I think it's a simple dish. We don't need to peel it. So I've got 8 wedges there. You could also play with different kinds of tomatoes, so maybe some baby Roma tomatoes or cherry tomatoes, and slice them in there to add a different composition to the salad. So the potato we're just going to slice in about 5mm pieces. And I think we're after about 60 grams of potato for this salad. I might just slice those in half. So we've got about 6 halves there. That should be enough for this salad.
So we don't throw that, do we? We can keep that for something else.
No, we can keep that. We can add that to another salad, or you can increase the quantity of this at home. So I've also got my Kalamata olives there that I've cut in half. I have some anchovies here that I'm just going to finely shred or pull apart, maybe even julienne, just before service. I'll place that here. My egg I'm going to cut. You might notice that I've washed my knife in between because I don't want and you may need to wipe your knife in between each one. I've managed to keep it nice and neat, and that's what we're looking for, a little bit of a runny yolk in the middle, soft to medium boil, and that helps to add a sauce or a dressing. So we're just going to clean down our work surface before we grill our tuna. I also have a little bit of red wine vinegar here and a little bit of olive oil. This is not going together as a dressing, we're just going to add it together.
Yep, so can you just show us the tray? And that's basically what we're looking for. Have your mise en place ready, all your ingredients good to go before we start thinking about grilling our tuna. Okay, we've got tomatoes, cooked beans, cooked potato, anchovies, olives, nice soft boiled egg, olive oil and red wine vinegar.
The next step that we have here is cooking the tuna. As we spoke about earlier, very important to have all your other mise en place ready before you cook this, because you don't want the tuna to overcook. So when you're dealing with frozen tuna, as we are sometimes in Western Australia, it's really important to drain your tuna a little bit on some absorbent towel to make sure you get rid of some of that juice. It also prevents it from sticking on the grill with excess moisture. So I just have a little bit of olive oil, a pastry brush. I'm just going to lightly brush this on here. I don't want to put too much oil on my grill, or if you're using a fry pan at home, you just want the minimal amount of oil to prevent it from sticking. And I'm going to put a little bit of sea salt on there as well. I'll avoid putting pepper on there until after we've finished the cooking process. So remember, if you're grilling or pan frying, always put the fish or the product down in the pan and drop it away from you to prevent any splashing. So while that's in the pan, I'm just going to season the other side, a little bit of oil, just enough to coat it. And
we're looking to cook this nice and rare, isn't it, Ron? So can you explain a little bit why that is?
Well, tuna doesn't have a lot of fat in it, and it's a very lean piece of protein. If you overcook it, it's going to dry out, it's going to become a little bit unpleasant and even a little bit chewy to eat. So the rarer the better, helps to have a more palatable product and make sure it's not dry.
You've got your pan smoking hot here. That's very important in this procedure, isn't it?
Yeah, if we don't have the pan smoking hot, you'll find that it sticks. You may even have some moisture loss in the product, and it can overcook as well. So we're after something here. I'll check in a moment, but we're probably looking at about 40 seconds on one side, and then we'll flip it over to the other side. How long have I had it in there? Maybe it'll be a minute. We've had this cooking on one side for about 40 seconds to a minute. that would depend on how big your tuna steak is also. You'll see that it hasn't stuck. We've got nice grill lines there. That's happened because we really preheated the pan and we didn't put too much oil in the pan. If you were putting oil in the grill pan, you might see that the oil fills up these char lines and you don't get these nice lines. So we're always looking for good presentation. We're going to continue to cook this on this side for maybe another 35 to 40 seconds. Okay, so we've cooked the other side of the tuna. We're just going to take that off, allow it to rest a little bit. That'll help some of the moisture that's coming up towards the surface go back into the centre of the tuna steak. So while we're just letting that rest, we can start assembling our salad ingredients here. I'm just going to put probably half of the ingredients in at a time. Some of the beans. Drizzle a little bit of our vinegar, a little bit of our oil and some seasoning. Some sea salt. A little bit of cracked pepper. I'm working with clean hands. Ensure you're always washing your hands. Or in a restaurant setting, sometimes we'll be using gloves as well in a cold entree section. So I'm just going to place a few of the products here. Some of our olives. I'll get 2 of my eggs in there. I'll serve some for garnish later as well. A little bit of cracked pepper on our tuna. Just wash my hands. So now that my tuna is rested, I'm just going to move it onto a clean chopping board. Make one incision. So you're using the full length of your blade. Make a nice even cut. You'll see that the tuna's nice and rare on the inside. It's got a nice sear on the outside. We'll present this so that the customer can see that the tuna's cooked well. I'm going to place another egg here. Just going to julienne some shreds of the anchovy. Be careful when using anchovy, it's very, very salty. So you may need to adjust your seasoning on the end, not put as much salt in. A little bit more of vinegar. A little bit of oil. Make sure you get a little bit of oil over the surface of the tuna. And that's our tuna Niçoise.